On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. He's an exciting college professor, internationally known keynote speaker, and a best-selling author, no big deal. He's a former Division I starting quarterback for the University of North Texas before his life took a totally different path. He was once sentenced to 65 years in a Texas prison where he became a change agent, realizing just like a coffee bean, he was capable of changing the environment around him. He emerged from prison a changed man and has since spoken to colleges, schools, businesses, and Fortune 500 companies worldwide. He's a shining example of reinvention and operates on my type of optimistic frequency. He's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific husband and father. Please welcome the multifaceted, abundant, resilient, and driven, dynamic Damon West. How you doing, Damon?
Craig, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. I love it. Dude, we're finally connecting.
I know. It's been a long time coming. We only really connected a little while ago through our mutual friend, John Gordon. But right away, we hit it off, brother. And like I was saying before we hit record, I'm just so proud of you. You and I have a similar message in the fact that it's reinvention. You obviously completely different stories, but I'm just so excited seeing you not only go for it, but all these opportunities coming to you, well-deserved, and you're making such an impact, brother. I want to acknowledge you for that.
Man, I truly appreciate that, man. You know, just as you know as well as I do, none of us get to where we are by ourselves. We all have help along the way, and I've had a lot of people that believed in me along the way, John Gordon being the biggest one of all of them in my new life. But, you know, a lot of what we're going to talk about today that you've experienced too is that growth follows belief, you know, so people, when you grow and you put the work in and people see that, that's when they'll believe in you, man. But you've got to be willing to put the work in yourself, get up and go.
Yeah, and it's contagious, right? Like, because me and you are both speaking a lot, you even more traveling and all that. But like, if people are going to help you, like, I know, like, based upon like people that come to me for help, like, there's something different about someone that really is going for it and has the knowledge, the drive, the energy, and is all about it. And you have it, brother.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And that's the thing. I mean, and quickly I find out that the people that come in asking for help, they'll see that they're not on that level that, hey, look, this guy is operating up here and I'm down here. And if I'm not going to get up here, then I'm not going to be able to swim up there. But I found a few people, Craig, and I've really poured into these people because, man, I've got belief in them and I want to pass on what the help that John Gordon gave to me. I want to pass that on to other people who look like they can operate at that level and they've earned it, you know?
Yeah, same. I feel the same way, brother. This is going to be fun. There's a lot of alignment here. Before we get rocking, we're going to start off. We're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
Go.
Damon, what is your superpower, brother?
Listening. I've learned how to listen. And here's the thing, that when you listen, you can hear what someone is saying and what their needs are. And when you find out what someone needs, then you can find out how you can be of service to them. And being of service to me is the most important thing in the world. That's how I stay sober. We'll get into that too. But I'm always looking for ways to serve other people. But the only way I know how someone needs to be served is by listening. And I've had to work on that along the, because, you know, there was a time in my life when I wasn't ready to listen. I was very selfish. I didn't want to listen because I wanted to tell you about me. I wanted it to be about me. And that's part of my addiction, was the very selfish part. But now it's like, I want to know about you. I want to know what your needs are, because everyone that you come in contact with, Craig, is coming in need. We are all in need of something. And that's what I want to listen for.
Bang! It's got nuggets, and we're just getting warmed up. That's where we would drop the mic, but we're just getting started. The only negative I got going on today, brother, is we don't have 10 hours to chat. This is awesome. Your story is so special, and it's going to make such an impact. We're over 1 million now on the podcast, and I know they're going to get so much out of it. So let's dive right in. Take us back to July 30, 2008. What happened on that night?
Wow, man, crazy. So I was sitting around this little rundown apartment in Dallas, and I was sitting on this little ratty old couch, and I had my meth dealer sitting next to me, because, and it's incongruent with the guy you see in front of you today, Craig, but 14 years ago, I wasn't this clean-cut, polished-looking college professor with best-selling books, a movie deal coming out. None of that was happening 14 years ago, man. 14 years ago, I'm a full-blown meth addict, and I'm the head of an organized crime ring. Think about those things where you see the pyramid of criminals on it. I'm at the very top of this chart because I'm the guy running the show. And I'm sitting there in that living room that day with my dope dealer, a guy named Tex, and I'm telling Tex, you don't want to be here right now. The end is near. The cops are closing in on me. Because Craig, 10 days before this guy that I was doing all these burglaries with in Dallas, this guy named Dustin, had been picked up by the Dallas Police Department in a stolen car. And just as I'm passing the pipe back to Tex, the window on my right blows out and shatters. And then tumbling across that living room floor is a little canister going end over end. It's smoking on one side, Craig. Man, I've seen this movie before. I know what that canister is about to do. And dude, I tried to get out of that living room as fast as I could. Too late. Boom! Flashbang grenade goes off my face. Bright white light, loud noise. And when the dust settles and I can see and hear again, there's a cop standing over me, full SWAT riot gear, boot on my chest, barrel and assault rifle in my socket, finger over the trigger, and he is screaming at the top of his lungs, "Don't move, don't move." Craig, I screamed back at him, "Don't worry, don't worry." So these cops start flooding in, and one of them screams out, "We got him. We got the uptown burglar." And they did. They had me that day.
Yeah. First of all, your ability to paint a visual, brother, my goodness, I was just in that movie with you, straight up. That's awesome. Just the way you described that. Moving backwards now for a second, how did you get there? Because in the beginning, it was a very promising future, right?
Yeah, I had everything going in life, man. Every advantage, every privilege, every opportunity, man. I grew up in a great family. Like my mom and my dad just celebrated 54 years of being married. I grew up in a wonderful Catholic home where God was at the center of everything. And I was into sports. I was a really good athlete. I got into substance abuse at a young age, and it started with me with alcohol when I was 10. I was molested by a babysitter when I was 9, got into substance abuse. And then, 10 years old, I started drinking. 12 years old, I started smoking pot. A lot of character issues developing here and there. But I could throw a football, Craig. And this is Texas, man. Texas high school football. It's like a religion in my home state, man. People worship on Friday nights at these stadiums.
Friday Night Lights, baby.
That's it, man. That's what it's all about in my home state. Dude, Texas, where I live, is football is everything. And I was the man. I was a 3-year
like a religion out there.
It is. It is a religion out there. And I'm telling you, people go on Friday nights to worship at the altar of high school football in Texas. And that's where I was. I was the starting quarterback for a 5A school, which was the biggest division back then. I got a scholarship to play Division I college football at the University of North Texas. And by the time I was 20, Craig, I was a starting quarterback for a Division I college football team in America. Dude, I thought I had arrived. My head was this big. But on September 21st, 1996, against Texas A&M, my career ends prematurely, and I have a career-ending injury at 20 years old. And that's when I started moving to more serious drugs to cope with the loss of my life.
And Damon, just to interject, but up until that point, this was kind of your identity, football player, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, man. My problem is I've wrapped my identity up into something external. And that's a mistake I see so many people making in life. And that's one of the things I want to listen for, because, man, you cannot wrap your identity up in something external. Money, job, whatever it is that you think may be your identity has to come from within, because if it doesn't, it can be taken away from you at any time. So it's 1996, man. I'm not playing football anymore. I got into cocaine, ecstasy pills, but I graduated college. I was a functional addict. And I go off to work in the United States Congress.
Those are even more dangerous, right?
Yeah, man, because you think you've got this licked. You don't think
you got this.
Yeah, you think you got this. You think you are in control. That's the thing about addicts. We feel like we're in control. And I say we because I'm in recovery now. I'm a grateful recovering addict in a program recovery. I work a 12-step program recovery. But I mean, look, my program recovery, if I stop working it, then I'll go back to my addiction. I know that's how life is for me. But whenever I'm in my addiction, I think I have control over things. And so I'm a functional addict. I work in the United States Congress in Washington, D.C. I work for a guy running for president of the United States. And then I moved back to Dallas, Craig, and you'll identify with this. I moved back to Dallas to train to be a stockbroker for one of the biggest Wall Street banks in the world, UBS, United Bank of Switzerland, man. And I know that you worked in the finance world too, man.
Yeah, for 12 years.
Yeah. Man. Hey, let me ask you something. Let's stop the story real quick. I got a question for you. On your Series 7, man, stays and puts, man, that killed me. I could not get my stays and puts right. How'd you do on that?
To be honest with you, I don't even remember. I just remember I was so happy that I passed to hit the ground running. It's so funny. Man. And then right after that, you had to take another test 3 weeks later. Was the
Series 63?
63, yes, bang.
Series 63, yeah, man.
You just took me back, brother.
Yeah, man, it's like, but taxation, stays, puts, the options and stuff. That was like, I was like, man, I could not get it straight in my head. But anyway, back to the story. I meant to ask you when we talked on the phone, but
that was awesome.
I'm gonna ask him in the podcast. So I was a broker at UBS in 2004, I'm passed out asleep at work one day, and this other broker that I hang out with, he came up, he saw me sleeping, and man, he freaked out on me, man. He's like, dude, you can't sleep on this job, man. The markets are open. You're messing with people's money. He said, they're going to fire you if they catch you sleeping here, man. And so he said, come on down to the parking garage. Let's go take a break. Come on down to the parking garage. I got something that's going to pick you up. So we go down to the parking garage that day in UBS's beautiful building right there in the Park Cities branch of Dallas, Texas. And when we get into his car, he hands me a glass pipe with these crystal rocks in it. Craig, I've never seen a glass pipe before, man. I think this is like, what is this white trash drug you're trying to hand me, man? And he's like, dude, just relax. Take a hit of this stuff. You're going to love this stuff. It's crystal meth. And Craig, truer words have never been spoken, because I fell in love with crystal meth that day. It was the most evil, most destructive, most electric drug I've ever tried in my life, man. I smoked it one time and I was instantly hooked, just like that. And I could not give everything away fast enough for that drug. Because Craig, let me tell you what addicts, people ask me all the time, what's an addict, Damon? I'm going to tell you what addictive behavior is. And this, you could be addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, money, whatever it is that takes you away from your goals in life, you can be addicted to. It's endless what you can be addicted to. Yep. Addicts give up their goals to meet their behaviors. Normal people, focused people, give up their behaviors to meet their goals. That is addiction in a nutshell. And that's what I did, Craig. I gave it all away. You can't steal from an addict, because we give it away. My job, my home, my car, my savings account, my family, my tethering to God. In 18 months, for the first of that pipe, I went from working on Wall Street to living on the streets of Dallas and committing crimes to fund my addiction. And that's when the Uptown Burglaries began in 2005.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, brother, for pulling back the curtain and getting so deep and vulnerable. And this is a really cool conversation, because we're kind of jumping around, but I wanted to give context and then say, how did we get there? So now you're caught, so to speak. Ultimately, you and I both know that this was the biggest blessing ever, right? To get caught, so we could facilitate and become the change agent. After that, it was a little bit of a process when you were going to court and so forth. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't see it at the time, Craig. It's a great point. I didn't see it at the time. Yeah, the SWAT team comes in, and I don't understand at the time that these are like angels that God sends down to pluck me out of this world that I'm in, because, of course, like I tell people all the time, that man plans and God laughs, because God had a plan going on that I couldn't see at the time. And we, so often that's what happens. We want things a certain way, but that might not be the way it's supposed to be. And so the SWAT team comes in, they rescue me from the world that I'm in, because I don't think I'm going to leave the Uptown Burglaries alive when I look back on it now. Or if I'm alive, I'm not a version of myself worth living, Yeah. But the SWAT team pulls me out. They stick me in Dallas County Jail. I wait for my day in court. And I mean, Craig, I'm running around Dallas County Jail thinking I'm going to get out and get probation, because I'm a white middle-class guy. I've got two paid attorneys. My parents, let me tell you about what my parents did. My parents, who don't come from money at all. I mean, they've worked all their lives. My dad was a sports writer. My mom was a nurse. They cashed in their retirement to get me representation, to get these two paid attorneys for me. And I really thought that, given what I'd seen in the past with a guy in my situation from my background, I thought I was going to get probation, Craig. But the trial turned out to be something totally different. 10 months after I was in jail, the jury was set May 18th, 2009. The jury had listened to a 6-day criminal trial. 6 days, Craig, is a long trial for crimes that were non-aggravated. No one was ever home. I never saw my victims. They never saw me. No one got physically hurt. No weapons were ever used. Now, it doesn't mean I wasn't a bad guy, because let me tell you about my crime and about what I did to my victims, because the crime of burglary, it's not just about stealing someone's property. I didn't just steal property. I stole people's sense of security. Yep. Some of my victims will never regain. They'll live with that for the rest of their lives, Craig. So I was a bad guy that deserved to go down. But the jury felt like, hey, this guy's got to go away for good. He's not worthy to be in society. And they came back with their verdict. It was guilty, and they sentenced me to 65 years, which is a life sentence in prison.
I heard you talking recently, and you were describing the moment as I think you were having a sandwich in jail.
Oh man. Yeah. They give you, So when the trial is over and the jury gets the trial, they go to the jury room to deliberate. This is deliberation. And they take the defendant, like me, they take you into a little holding cell in the back because I'm in county jail the whole time. I've got a suit on. But after the trial every day, I change out my suit for my orange jumpsuit. So I'm in my suit still. I'm sitting down there in the cell. They bring me a bologna sandwich because that's what they bring you on the lunch breaks. 2 bologna sandwiches. I start taking a bite of the first bologna sandwich. And in 10 minutes from when the jury got the case to go deliberate, the bailiff came in and knocked on the glass and he smiled. He said, "They're ready." Oh, Craig, man, I couldn't even swallow. My throat locked up. I spit the bologna sandwich because we have a toilet in the holding cell. I spit the bologna sandwich out in the toilet, man, because I couldn't even swallow the food because I knew this was a bad sign. This is terrible, man. I mean, dude, the trial lasted 6 days. There were over 50 witnesses against me, victims, police, everybody that was in the Uptown Burglary crime spree, everybody that rolled over on me on the whole process of it, because that's what everybody does in crime. Nobody holds it down and just says, "Oh man, I'm not going to say a word." Man, everybody got deals cut because they wanted me. So I come back into the courtroom, and I told you I have 2 lawyers. My second chair of counsel, a woman named Karen Lambert, she looked at me. She said, "Brace yourself. It's going to be bad." And I'm like, "How bad, Karen?" And she said, "Well, you were gone for that brief 10 minutes. The jury sent a note into the judge from the jury room. They wanted to know if they could give you life without parole." Craig, life without parole is a capital punishment. These are reserved for the most heinous crimes, people that kill other people. These aren't capital offenses, man. They're not even eligible for that kind of punishment. And I'm like, "Karen, these aren't capital crimes. What's going on?" She said, "Brace yourself. It's going to be bad. Get ready. Get ready." The judge came in, he hit the gavel down. He said, "Damon Joseph West, you are hereby sentenced to 65 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice," man. And the first thing I heard was my mother behind me gasp out loud. You know, like the sound only a mother can make when she hears her son get a life sentence in prison. And man, everything sped up. I mean, the sheriffs are on me, the bailiffs are on me, they're handcuffing me because, you know, you never know what someone's going to do when they get sentenced to life in prison. They could run and, you know, charge the judge, charge the jury, throw a chair. I mean, I wasn't going to do that, but they never know. They just swarm me, man. They put my hands behind my back. It was fast, man.
Holy shit, bro.
It was wild. It was crazy. It was intense.
I've interviewed some of the world's greatest in every field, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, but this conversation right now, I've never been so invested inside a story and acknowledging you for the way that you articulate it and so forth. Very passionate, energetic, but that's crazy, man. So I imagine you have a couple moments with your parents at that point.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was one of those deals where, like, I think everybody in the courtroom was shocked with how much the jury came back with.
Yeah.
Because a guy in my situation, you know, I figured, look, I'm going to probably go to during the trial. My mind started shifting. I'm like, okay, I'm going to probably go to prison. I don't know how long it's going to be for, but if I go, it'll be no more than 20. So I'm adjusting myself while I'm waiting for the trial to end, thinking, okay, I might get 20, but I might get probation, you know, because probation's on the table because I've never had a felony conviction. So it shocks everybody. They whisk me out of there. They put me in this room. It's got a bulletproof glass, and they bring my mom and my dad on the other side of the glass to give them one last visit. They feel sorry for my parents because I just got life. And my dad can't talk. He's in stunned disbelief that his son, with all this promise and life, just got a life sentence in prison. Yeah, I mean, it's like he can't wrap it. He hasn't wrapped his brain around it. It's obvious at this point. But my mom, who's a nurse, you know, nurses are very special people. They're used to compartmentalizing pain. They can get down and triage. And as a matter of fact, I've asked my mother since then, how did you have that conversation? What were you thinking? And she said, "Damon, I looked at this situation like my son is dying. He's laying on a gurney. He's bleeding out, and I've got to stem the flow of blood." And she said, that's where my mind went for this conversation. When she says, "Damon," she said, "debts in life demand to be paid. And you just got hit with one hell of a bill for the state of Texas." She said, "But you did the things they said you did at that trial, Damon. So you're going to have to go and pay that debt society. You owe Texas that debt." She said, "But Damon, you owe your father and I debt too." She said, "We gave you all the opportunities, love, and support to be anything you wanted to be in life. And that's how you just repaid us what we saw in that courtroom." She said, "That's not going to work because we raised you in Port Arthur, Texas, a giant melting pot of a city. We gave you a great moral compass, which you chose to not use." She said, "So here's the debt you're going to pay to us. When you go to prison, you will not get one of these white hate groups, one of these Aryan Brotherhood type of gangs, because you're scared because now you're the minority in there. She said, that's not going to work. She said, Damon, you were never raised to be a racist, and you're not going to start now. She said, you will not get any tattoos while you're inside that prison. And I mean, Craig, I show people my sleeves all the time, man. Almost
By the way,
10
look
years.
at those guns, buddy.
Huh?
Look at those guns, my man.
Yeah, man. No, I try to stay in shape. I'll be 47 in a couple months, but I try to keep
47
in
years
shape.
young.
Yeah. No, I tell people all the time, prison preserved me. Like my boy Dak Prescott, my business partner Dak Prescott, he's always saying, dude, you got to take 7 years off whatever your age is. He said, right now you're 39. So, because I was in prison for 7 years.
Yeah.
But she says, no gangs, no tattoos. She said, you come back as the man we raised, or don't come back at all. And Craig, I'm stunned. Don't come back at all. I mean, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I tell her, okay, Mom, I got it. You know, she tells me she loves me. I tell her I love her. And so I'm running around Dallas County Jail, and I'm asking all these guys that have been to prison before, how am I gonna survive? What am I gonna do? And Craig, man, every single guy I talked to that's been to the joint, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, they all said the same exact thing. You got to get into a gang. You're not going to survive this other gang. The gang's going to be your family now, West. Get into a gang, save your life. But there was this one guy that was so different, Craig, this older black man in Dallas County Jail named Mr. Jackson.
Real quick, Damon, up until this point from that night, right, with the cops, no drugs, correct?
Yeah, no drug. Now, no drugs. That's a good question. Doesn't mean I wasn't trying to get any drugs. I was spending my time in Dallas County Jail trying to get meth brought in. I asked the other guys that were locked up in there that said, hey, man, I can get one of these guards to bring some dope in. Tried, Craig. It never happened. The entire time I'm in Dallas County Jail, I'm trying to get high, but I have no success in getting high. There's no way I can get any dope into Dallas County Jail, not from a lack of trying. But when I got sentenced to life in prison, I'm going to tell you a story that I didn't even get into with Ed on the day I got sentenced to life in prison, May 18th, 2009. That day was my rock bottom moment. And I tell people all the time, because people that are in addiction and recovery, they understand what the term rock bottom is. That's when you get to a place where you feel like, you've hit a bottom sufficient enough that you're ready for a change. And look, at this point, I know that there's a problem, and the problem's me, but I don't know how to solve that problem. But I did the first step, which was to relinquish control on May 18, 2009. Now, when you're in a jail and a prison setting, you can't cry. You just can't show that kind of weakness in front of these people. It's a very predatory environment inside the institutions. So the only place you can really cry is in the showers. So after the trial was over on May 18, 2009, first of all, when I walked back into the pod, my trial's been on TV. It's a very high profile case. Every inmate in this pod that I live in knows that I just got life, and it's quiet when I walk in. They're looking at a dead man walking. They don't see lifers in county jail like that. Matter of fact, the officers, after the trial was over, they came to lock me up and put me in SAG, because that's what they do to people that get life. But I talked them out of it. I was like, no, you can't send me to SAG. I'll lose my mind in there. Please let me go back to general population. They made me promise no problems. I mean, West, if you give us any problems, if you hurt yourself, you hurt someone else, we're locking you up. And I'm like, dude, please trust me. And I knew I had to get back, because that's where society is in there. I live in this little society. So I get back to my pod on May 18th, 2009. I grab my stuff to go take a shower, and nobody will talk to me. Everybody's just staring. Nobody wants to be around me, man. It's like almost like they're going to getting a life sentence. No one wants to go near me, man. So I go grab my shower stuff. I know everybody's watching me. I'm very aware. Your heightened sense of awareness inside that place. I grab my shower stuff. I just keep a solid look on my face. I go to the shower and I break down, Craig. I break down and cry like a baby, man. And I'm telling Jesus, I'm like, Jesus, I can't do this anymore, man. I'm so done. Come and get me. I don't know what to do. And Craig, I mean, that was really the first step for me, because the first step is admitting that you're powerless. And that's what I did that night in that shower on May 18th, 2009. I asked to be brought back in to the faith that I was born into, to being a Christian, where I wasn't living a Christian life. And the cool thing about it is like, man, Jesus is sitting there saying, man, dude, come on, I got you. Get on my back. Let's roll, brother. So it was really this welcoming coming back in, but I wasn't going to be done with my addiction at that point. I've done the simple step of saying that I'm powerless, but I don't have a program recovery at the time. And that's going to be something that happens later on in the story. But at this point, May 18th, 2009, the wind is out of my sails. I'm not looking for dope anymore. I'm looking for survival now. I got to figure this out because my mom's giving me this ultimatum. And that's where I am in that 2-month window between Dallas County Jail and the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
Yeah, this is awesome, brother. And again, thank you for the transparency and really painting a visual here. And like two things that come to mind are awareness and acceptance, right? And when I think of acceptance, you don't have to like it, but you have to accept where you're at right now so that you can begin to try to change, right? And so many people, they don't accept or acknowledge where they're at. And as a result, they don't think they need to change. But you got to a point where you're like, I need some help. I need to figure something out. I'm at rock bottom.
But dude, this is a great point you're making. Think about what you're saying. The acceptance has to come before the change, right?
Yes.
But my acceptance had to come after a life sentence in prison. And that's one of the things I try to, this very point you're making, I try to express to people and show them that we have to be able to come to a point of acceptance before the most extreme things can happen in our lives. Because, I mean, how many different opportunities did I have in life to accept the situation I was in? People tried to get through to me. My parents knew something was wrong, but they lived 6 hours away from me. They couldn't just drag me back to Port Arthur from Dallas. And I didn't ever go to where people were saying, hey, something's wrong, because I wasn't willing to accept the situation I was in. My acceptance came after a jury took my life from me. There's got to be an easier path, Greg. I tell people all the time, Nick Saban once told me, good players learn from their own mistakes. Great players learn from the mistakes of others. There are so many examples out there of people that make mistakes in life that we can learn from their mistakes. And all we have to do is be observant, be willing to listen and learn.
Yeah, sometimes that's easier said than done. I totally get. And look, personal development's my life now, but sometimes you have to go through it. Obviously, hopefully not to that extreme, but so forth. So I want to find. I'm sure the audience is wondering this: 65 years. How did you get out? And then let's rewind and walk us into the experience of prison when you start to cultivate becoming the coffee bean and the change agent.
Yeah. So how I got out was I made parole, and this is just one of the most unbelievable stories there is, because at 7 years and 3 months into prison, I made parole. And look, I know I'm up for parole simply because the fact that my crimes were considered to be non-aggravated, they're classified as non-aggravated, meaning no one was ever hurt. So, but it doesn't matter. I've got a life sentence, and they don't have any separation with lifers that are aggravated and lifers that are not aggravated. So there's 432 people that live on 7 buildings on the prison I live on, 7 buildings for all the lifers. And I'd say probably correct, 98% of the people I'm locked up with, of the 432, 98% of them are aggravated. Meaning that if you're aggravated, you have to do it at least 30 calendar years before you see a parole officer. 30 years is the minimum that all these people I live around have to do to see. Some of them won't see parole. Dude, I was on a pod one time, G-pod 1 section on 7 building. There are 48 people that live on this pod. 12 of the 48 had life without parole. LWOPs, man. And LWOP was never going to see parole. There's no hope. There's no hope. There's no way getting out. These are nuclear bombs that you live around, because one day they're going to explode and they're going to take everything around them with them. So I've navigated this world that I've been in, man. This is the most hopeless place I've ever been in my life, the most dangerous place I've ever been in my life. I've navigated this world by being a coffee bean, and the parole board comes to visit me, and the lady from parole is interviewing me, and she's like, look, you know, she said, we don't see a lot of people like Damon West come through the state prison system, because she said, you had everything going for you in life, every advantage, every privilege, and every opportunity. And, you know, Craig, she was right, because I didn't see another Damon West inside that prison. You know, you think back to like people like, well, give me an example of what it was like. You ever seen the movie Shawshank Redemption?
Of course, classic.
Remember Andy Dufresne? He's just this odd duck, man. He speaks differently than everybody, looks differently, different background. That was Damon West. Man, no one around me had the background I had, or came from where I came from, and the opportunities that I had. And
get busy living or get busy dying.
That's it, man. Hey, let me ask you something real quick before we get to the parole conversation. When you saw Shawshank Redemption, this is important to me. I want to understand this. When you saw Shawshank Redemption, did you think it was a story about Red, Morgan Freeman's character, or did you think it was a story about Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins' character? There's no wrong answer.
Andy.
Okay. And I saw it as Red. So here's the deal. My Netflix series that I'm trying to do with Dak Prescott on the Change Agent, his production company, this is going to be a combination of Shawshank. It's like a modern version of Shawshank and The Wire. So it's going to be these two like genres put together. And the two characters in the series is going to be 8 to 10 episode series. The two main characters are Damon West and Mr. Jackson. These two guys are going to go through these 10 episodes. And by the time it ends, this is the conversation we're hoping people will have. Whose story was it? Was it Damon's story? Was it Mr. Jackson's story? You know, because these two guys are going to help each other get through this.
But there's no wrong answer, like you said.
There's no wrong answer. No, I'll tell you why I saw it as Red's story, simply because Red told Andy Dufresne, hope is a dangerous thing. Red had lost hope. Red was dead on the inside. This is the same thing we see in the personal development the space that we work on, the self-help, because we meet people, we run into people, Craig, you and I do all the time, people that have lost hope. And when you lose hope, that's it, man. You've got to find a way to pump hope into these people. Red was dead, but he meets Andy Dufresne, and Andy Dufresne tells him, get busy living or get busy dying.
That's it.
Andy saves Red's life and gives Red a whole new perspective on life. And, you know, Red is physically freed in the end, but he was freed long before that because Andy Dufresne showed him how to live again. That's why I think it was Red's story.
Yeah, it's awesome. And like, again, no wrong answer. Beautiful.
No wrong answer.
Yeah, that's great. So I don't want to go through the whole jail story because I want to talk about all the cool and exciting things that you got going on now. But of course, the coffee bean story. You and Mr. Jackson form this unbelievable relationship. He takes a liking to you and he helps you change your perspective. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, you know, and just to say that the lady from parole, I had my parole interview and she just wanted to know, she said, if you could be remembered for being anything in life, anything at all, she said, tell me what that would be in just one word, go. And I mean, Craig, that's an easy question for a coffee bean to answer. Man, I sat up straight. I fired her answer back at her. I said, ma'am, useful. I just want to be useful. And it can be useful in this prison, as you already seen, or it can be useful in the free world, finding more coffee beans. And on November 16th, 2015, I walked out of a Texas prison, and I'm not totally free. I'm on parole till 2073. So I'm on parole the rest of my life. But today I'm on this mission to find coffee beans. Well, let me tell you where I heard the story of the coffee bean. In Dallas County Jail, that period between the time I sentenced to life in prison and the prison bus comes to pick me up to serve that sentence, there's a man I run into named Mr. Jackson. Old black guy, been to prison 4 or 5 times, career criminal, most positive guy I've ever seen, though. The guy had a smile on his face everywhere he went. And every morning he'd come up to my cell, to my bunk, he'd pick me up like a ray of sunshine in that dark place with his positive energy. And so one morning he comes up and he's got a cup of coffee in his hands and a smile on his face. And he's like, West, he said, man, I've been watching all these knuckleheads, these dummies talk about you got to get into a gang. He said, man, what's these fools? You want to keep that promise you made to your mom and your dad? He said, then let me tell you what prison's going to be like. So he starts walking me through the realities of the situation I'm in, the racial factor in there, because all the inmates wanted to be about race. And if I wanted to be an independent, not join a gang, I would have to fight all the white gangs first. And then if I survived that, I'd fight all the black gangs. And if I survived all that, I would earn the right to walk alone. And he told me this allegory that stuck with me, man, because anybody from 5 to 95 years old could understand the story he told me. He said, I want you to imagine prison as a pot of boiling water. And he said, anything we put into this pot of boiling water is going to be changed by the heat and the pressure inside this pot. He said, I'm going to put 3 things in this pot of boiling water and watch how they change. A carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean. So this is where I first heard the story of the coffee bean, the summer of 2009 in Dallas County Jail. So he said, first things first. He said, if I put a carrot in the pot of boiling water we call prison, he said, what happens to the carrot? I'm like, Mr. Jackson, the carrot's going to turn soft. He said, that's right. He said, the carrot goes into the water hard, but the water, the prison turned the hard carrot soft and mushy and weak. Carrot gets beat, it gets robbed, may get raped, may get killed. You don't want to be the carrot. He said, what about the egg? What happened to the egg in the pot of boiling water? And I'm like, Mr. Jackson, the egg is going to turn hard, man, like a hard-boiled egg. He said, that's right. He said, the egg has a shell that protects it physically, but inside the shell, the soft liquid core, the egg's heart becomes hardened. He said, if your heart becomes hardened, you're incapable of giving or receiving love. And he said, if you're incapable of giving or receiving love in that place, you've become institutionalized and you will not come back as someone your parents recognize. He said, because your eggshell's going to have swastikas tattooed all over it. And then he asked me, he said, what about the coffee bean? And I didn't know, Craig, I didn't have an answer for this. I didn't know what happened to a coffee bean in a pot of boiling water. I've never considered the question. And that's when he shares with me one of the most important messages I've ever heard. This guy, Craig, who looks nothing like me. He didn't come from the same America that I come from, man. He didn't believe the same things I believe in life. This is a Black Muslim man from the streets of Dallas, Texas. I'm a white Catholic guy from a little bitty Texas town called Port Arthur. But this guy's so different than me, just shared with me one of the most important and transformational messages. And I tell people all the time, you can never shut yourself off to people that are different race, different gender, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation. And if you do that, you're going to miss some of the most important lessons and some of the best friendships.
And there's a message in everything. I always say, if you listen.
Absolutely. Superpower again. You just tapped into it. Listen.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And this is why the superpower. You asked me the question, I had the answer because this, Craig, I'm going to tell people this all the time. God in my life, I'll use an I statement. In my life, God has never just put his hand down on my head and said, hey, Damon, you're healed. Go on. No, it didn't happen like that for me. What happened in my life, and it happens still, is God has put people in my life. These people, when I was younger, were like my parents. They were teachers. They were coaches. They were people in the town of Port Arthur that helped raise me. And as I got older in life, they took on the forms of different people. One of these people was a Black Muslim man in a Dallas County jail cell. Now think about that. God's messengers come in all different forms and shapes and sizes, but you have to be willing to listen to the message. And if you shut yourself off and you can't listen, then you miss it all. I didn't miss the coffee bean that day because I was searching for the answers. I was listening more than I've ever listened before in my life, because I remember on May 18th, I've surrendered and I said, man, show me the way. And this person comes in my life and says, hey, Damon, he said, if I put a coffee bean in that same pot of boiling water we call prison, he said, now you have to change the name of the water to coffee. Because he said the coffee bean, the smallest of the three things, he said, small like you, had the power to change the entire atmosphere inside that pot, because the power is inside the coffee bean. He said, just like the power is inside of you. And he told me, he said, everything else is changed by the water. Carrots are changed by the water. Eggs are changed by the water. But coffee beans are the only thing that will change the water. And he said, everybody in life, we put out this energy, negative or positive. And whatever kind of energy you put out, you attract back. The law of attraction. Yeah. So he's telling me you have to use the law of attraction in there. You can't walk around with a mean look on your face, looking hard, because then you're going to attract the most negative and violent men to your world, because your negative energy attracts their negative energy. Now you're an egg. He said, but if you walk around with a smile on your face, be a coffee bean, walk around with a smile on your face. He said, what you're going to do is your energy is going to repel the negative energy, and you're going to attract the other coffee beans inside that prison. And the last 4 words this man ever said to me, man, he says, West, go out there and go be a coffee bean. Just like this sign right behind you, be a coffee bean. 4 words that changed my life. That put the power back inside me, man. And that is the message that anybody can grab onto, because that tells you that no matter what you're facing in life, no matter what your circumstances are, the environment around you, the power's not there. The power's in you. If you keep it inside you, you won't just survive, you will thrive in any environment. And that's where the message of the coffee bean gets connected to one of the most powerful stories, because a maximum security level 5 penitentiary, Craig, I talk to people all the time. The biggest fear most people have, going to prison, because it's a scary and dangerous place. But I was able, inside that pot of boiling water called, the maximum security penitentiary, I was able to become a coffee bean and turn that pot of boiling water into a pot of coffee. So much so that the parole board let me go to find more coffee beans in the free world.
Bang. And so many things to unpack there. Number one, you mentioned the law of attraction, right? And being a listener is your superpower. In order for you to take in that story or that metaphor, or that lesson, you have to be available for it, right? And like I always tell everybody, like, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. So if you don't like the results you're getting back, it's feedback saying that that's what you're projecting. You got to a point where you are a vibrational match and available for abundance and to hear good things. And you heard that story and digested it, and then you became a beacon. Unbelievable stuff, brother, straight up. So was this in the beginning of your sentence?
Yeah, this is like literally, I'm getting this, and I call these things, John Gordon gave me this term, I call these things downloads, man. When you would just
whatever you call divine download.
Yeah, whatever you call God, man. Because there's a lot of different faiths out there, right? You can pick whatever one's yours, but I'm a Christian. So when I get these downloads from God, this is a download, man. This is like, whoo.
No question.
This coffee bean thing, I can work with this because I can wrap my brain around it. And then once I hear it, shortly after that, I get shipped to prison. Now I'm getting dropped in that pot of boiling water he was talking about. And I mean, Craig, man, prison.
Wait, this was before prison?
This is right before prison, man. I'm in jail. See, the difference between prison and jail is a place you go to before you get sentenced.
Understood.
Prison's where you go to
So
after you
Mr.
get
Jackson wasn't actually in prison with you?
Wasn't actually in prison with me.
Wow.
He was in Dallas County Jail. And I can't even find the guy. I don't even know his real name. I call him Mr. Jackson for the sake of the story. The only name I knew this guy was Muhammad. These guys go to prison, and when they convert to Islam, they give up their government name. My government name is Damon West. So his government name, I don't know what it was, but the only name I knew him by was the name that he'd taken on. Muhammad. Wow. Think about it. Like Cassius Clay goes to prison and becomes Muhammad Ali. So that's the only name I know this guy's Muhammad. I can't find this guy to this day. We're searching all over for him. We're hoping that if we can't find him, he finds me at some point. But this guy gives me this download in that brief little window between being sentenced to prison in May of 2009 and shipping off on August 10th, 2009.
Your story was already one of a kind, once in a lifetime. And I've heard you tell it a couple different times because I'm a fan. And also I wanted to show this conversation the respect it deserves. But I didn't realize until this very moment that was actually before the whole sentence. So now you go there and you're on your own, so to speak.
That's it. I'm on my own. And, he gave me some clues about what was going to happen. He told me a lot of stuff about prison. And the time we were together, he walked me through it. And he told me what the first day at prison was going to look like, that I was going to be challenged. My heart check. They call it a heart check. They check your heart. They see if, if you're willing to fight and stand up for yourself. He said it's going to happen right when you walk in the door. That the first guy that comes up to you is not a threat. He's an information gatherer. He's a scout. Going to ask you what gang you want to be a part of. He said the second guy is the one you want to be watching out for. Yeah, a scout. He said the first guy's a scout. The second guy's an enforcer. He said the second guy's going to come up and he's going to fight you. So hit him before he even gets a word out of his mouth. Just punch him. And I mean, it happens just like this, Craig. I walk into prison, man. They walk me. First of all, I get shipped off to a maximum security level 5, but it's the highest security level there is because I'm a lifer. There's only about a dozen prisons in Texas that if you can handle someone that gets a fresh life sentence because the security level is so high for a lifer like that. So they walked me into the pod. I got a mattress under one arm, a couple bags of property. They let me in that sally port door. The door closes behind me, and I look up in this giant room with 3 tiers of cells. There's inmates hanging over all the rafters. It's really loud. Prison was loud. But when that door closed and they saw me walk in, the volume drops to 0. And everybody's staring at me, man. The new guy that walked in, like the worst first day at school you could even imagine, man.
Fresh fish. Fresh
fish, man. And I'm scared to death. I'm thinking about making a run for it, but my cell's on the 3rd tier up by the showers. There's like no way I'm going to make it. So I put my mattress down, I put my bags down, I put my back against the wall, and I waited. Didn't take but about 5 minutes. Little bitty white dude comes up, little bald-headed white dude. He's tatted up from head to toe. Even his eyelids are tatted up. Craig gets in my face. He says, "Hey, white boy." He said, "What family you going to ride with, white boy?" And I'm like, "Man, get out of my face, little dude. I'm riding with God. Please just leave me alone. I'm riding with God." Man, he laughed at me, Craig. He said, "God isn't here, white boy, but we're here and we're coming to get you. Get ready." He goes up the stairwell on the right side. A few minutes later, the biggest corn-fed white dude I've ever seen in my life. Massive dude, just this big skinhead, man. He's coming down the stairs. Muscles and veins ripping out of his shirt. Bald-headed dude with a swastika all around the top of his skull, man. All I see is a swastika, 2 beady eyeballs and muscles coming at me. Craig, I remembered everything Jackson said. I mean, dude, I played sports all my life. I can be coached, man. This guy got within range of me, man, and I hit him. I gave him everything I had, right in his mouth, Craig. And in 20 seconds, my first fight in prison was over because that dude had me on the ground in the day room, beating me from one side of the day room to the other, man. This dude beat the hell out of me that day. And that was prison, man.
He just ate your punch?
Oh, he just ate it. Boom. Just came right back out. I mean, it didn't even matter to him that I just hit him in the face, man. And it was almost like it was funny to him that I hit him in the face. And that was prison in the first 20 minutes. And for the next 2 weeks, man, I'm fighting the white gangs off, man. And I survived because Mr. Jackson shared with me one very, very big clue about fighting. It's something I've shared with every audience I've ever spoken to. He said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you have to fight all your fights.
I've been waiting for you to say it.
Oh, man. He said, and that's what he told me. He said, man, don't worry about wins or losses in this place. No one in there cares whether or not you win. They're never going to remember if you won, but they're going to remember if you don't fight and you don't get back up. He said, get up. And he even told me, he
what
said,
a life lesson, brother.
Oh yeah, because it's a huge life lesson that tells you that some days you're going to win and some days you are going to lose. You can't win everything, man. You're not capable of. No one is, and the expectation is not even there. And that's what we do to ourselves, man. That's inside of us. You know, the big win in life, the big win for me in prison was showing up. That's the win every day, man. You get a chance to show up and face life. And you know what? Some days, the minute your feet hit the floor, life's going to punch you right in the mouth. But face those days too. Get up and face that adversity in life. Because like Ed, our buddy Ed Milet will say, on the other side of that adversity, that's the best version of you.
The
But
best.
you're going to have to go through that adversity to meet that person.
Absolutely, brother. This is gold gripping stuff. And also something else I heard you talk about, which is relevant to this, is most people are in prison outside of jail, a prison of their mind.
Absolutely. In fact, I would argue, and I'm going to make this statement, giving you, let me preface this by saying, I spent almost 10 years in a maximum security level 5, the highest security threat level there is in an American prison. And then today I went back and got my master's in criminal justice. I'm a professor at the University of Houston downtown.
That's the Damon.
Yeah, Professor West, man. I teach a class called Prisons in America. I'm the only professor in the world that ever lived in a prison that teaches a prisons class.
That's awesome.
But I can tell you, the hardest place to do time is not a physical prison. The hardest place to do time is the prison in your mind.
Oof.
I meet more people out here in the free world that are locked up by their thoughts, by their things, than I ever did when I was serving time. More people are in prison by their thoughts and by their things than by steel bars and barbed wire and concrete combined. And that's the thing about the prison of your mind. It's the toughest prison to walk out of. And that's one of the things that guys like you and I do all the time in life. We're trying to free people that have imprisoned themselves in their mind, because that's what we have to do. You have to unlock that, man. So many people get locked up in this prison of their mind, and they forget about the thing in life that they're given. And I say faith, whatever faith you are, you can tap into this thing. And 95% of the world believes in a supreme being or a higher power. So think about this when I'm about to say this, is that your higher power, your supreme being that you believe in, has given you this valuable thing called perspective. Perspective is when it tells you what a bad day looks like. And when you're going through something, you have to be able to measure that day up with what a real bad day looks like. I'll give you an example. In my life, every day that I wake up and my feet don't hit the cold concrete floor of the prison cell, I'm winning, brother. I'm winning. And I haven't lost since I've gotten out of prison. My worst day out here is better than my best day in prison. And that's the things we have to remind ourselves. Everybody has perspective. You know what a bad day is. Somebody dies, you lose a job, relationships end, things happen, your house burns down. Anything you can relate this back to, that was a bad day. This is not. This is an inconvenience. This is adversity. But on the other side of the adversity is the opportunity.
Yeah, two things that come to mind. Number one, bad days are a choice, right? And then also you talk about spiritual workouts, brother. How important is that to get the mindset necessary to live life the way that we both are, specifically you right now?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, spiritual workouts the most important part. I'm on the road a lot. I don't always get my physical workouts in. I've got to do better at that. I have not prioritized it as much as I used to. And I need to do that. That's on me. And if someone says I don't have time, that's not true. All the time you spend on your phone, you could take 1 hour of that and spend that back in your workout.
Sure.
So I haven't prioritized my physical work, but I'll tell you something I never miss. Every day I always hit my spiritual workout because it happens first thing when I wake up. And again, being cognizant of the fact that there's so many different faiths that listen to this podcast.
Yep.
The prayer I'm about to tell you that I say that I pray every day, you can use in your faith too. It's not just, no Christian owns this prayer. Nobody owns this prayer, because this is a prayer that you can get up and say, like I say every morning, I say, hey, God, put in front of me what you need me to do today for you. And let me recognize that when I see it, because I do not want to miss that one thing. Right. That's it. Amen. Now I've got my directions, man. Now I want a path to serve. I'm looking for ways to be useful. I'm looking for ways to serve other people, because in my faith, Craig, and this has worked out in my life pretty well. I think we can look at all the metrics and it's worked out well. I believe that if I do what God needs me to do for him, that he'll take care of my needs too. Not my wants, but my needs. Needs and wants are two different things. But my needs have always been met when I'm willing to go out and look to help the needs of others. Because again, coming full circle from when we started this thing, Everyone that we meet is coming in need. And it's incumbent upon us to find a way to help people in need, because when we're helping other people, that's when we're at our best. That's what servant leadership is. It's helping other people reach their goals in life, helping to raise other people up to a
I'm so proud of you, brother. Straight up, my man. Like, you, first of all, you're just getting warmed up. You barely even scratched the surface on the impact and the dent that you're going to put in this universe. So I want to acknowledge you for that. One of your core messages, which I think is universal and applicable for anybody in life that's going to be listening to this podcast, is that your past does not equal you. And the power of reinvention is ready when you are. Would you agree?
Absolutely, dude. And you couldn't pick a better message to like come full circle and wrap this whole thing up on, because your past doesn't define you, Craig. I tell people this all the time, and look at my past. My past doesn't define me. Your past is your lesson. You learn from it, and you can teach other people with it. I mean, there's a reason why your windshield is bigger than your rearview mirror. You need a lot more space to look forward than you do to look backwards. You can't drive a car looking at the rearview mirror, Craig. You hit everything on the road in front of you in sight. There's a reason why that windshield's bigger. You know, you have to face forward and not look backwards, not look back on the past good things you've done. Don't rest on your laurels of your victories. Don't look back on the past bad things you've done, the things you regret, you hope no one finds out about. Let all that stuff go. You can't change that, but you can certainly cause your present and your future to be a bunch of wrecks if you're not facing forward in that windshield of life, man. Get out of the past, Craig. You can't change that, but you can certainly use that to help learn lessons and teach other people with it. We are all teachers in life, Craig.
Yeah, and also, like, I want to say this, like, for all the adversity, obstacle, challenges that we're all going through, or have the storm that we're going through, or have gone through, and so forth. Like, if you look at it with a different perspective, like, this is going to sound pretty deep, but Damon was actually being qualified, right, to go through all the stuff that he went through, so that he could now take this relatable message and apply it to the world. So if you're going through something, instead of the victim mentality, maybe ask yourself, like, how is this propelling me forward? How can I learn from this? And then utilize it to help others. Because if you didn't go through all that crazy stuff, your message wouldn't be able to land the way it is today, right?
So true, Craig. So true. And in fact, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to share something else with you. I didn't, because man, it's just like I've got so much stuff to talk about what you're saying.
We got to bring you back for sequel.
Yeah, no, we'll do it, and we'll do it. We'll do it after we finally sell this thing to Netflix or Hulu or HBO. Yeah. We'll come back and do another one about that. But here's the deal: in my life, in my program recovery, I go to AA. I don't speak for AA, but I am in AA. That's my program recovery. I go to 2 or 3 meetings a week. When I'm on the road, I find meetings on the road, and it's a program recovery that I've chosen to go to. But part of this program recovery is we have a sponsor, which would be the equal to having a mentor or a coach in the free world. And I can't stress the whole idea of having a mentor or a coach. Everyone needs someone in their life like that, Craig. And that's what you do. Why you're so important to so many people. But this mentor of mine is my sponsor. I'll call him Ray to protect his anonymity because it's an anonymous program. But Ray is a junior high dropout from Boston. He's in his 70s now. He's a junior high dropout from Boston. He was a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. This guy is my guru, my sensei in life, man. I bounce everything off of Ray all the time. This guy who doesn't have a formal education, but graduated with a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks and has been in recovery for almost 4 decades, is the guy that I bounce everything off of. You see, we don't have to be qualified with degrees from institutions. Our qualification comes from the very thing that we might think is the thing that disqualifies us.
Exactly.
That's the very thing that makes us the person to go to help someone else. Ray's life and the choices he made around addiction, he's the only one that could get through me to help me through my struggles in life. No one else, not a priest, not a rabbi, not a pastor. No one has able to get through to me like Ray has in this program recovery because of the mistakes he's made and how he's overcome those. That is what qualified Ray to be the coffee beans sensei in life.
Bang. This was awesome, brother. I need to ask you this one last nugget to land the plane. Just selfishly, quick answer. You talk about spiritual goals, is that you have no enemies. And I think that's really cool. Tell the audience what you mean by that.
I have no enemies. That means that it doesn't mean that I'm not someone's enemy, because I may be someone's enemy, but it means that I choose to not live I choose to not have any resentments anymore against anybody in life. I choose to not withhold forgiveness from anyone, especially the people that don't ask for the forgiveness from me. That's the ones that I give it to. When I lay down at night, I have a conversation with God, what I call God. Again, anybody can do this with your faith. And I say, hey, God, how was I living today? Was I a good person? What did I do to put back in the stream of life? Do I owe someone an apology? Because I got to make my amends in life. But the real big question, the spiritual workout at the end of the day, this is my 2-a-day. At the end of my day, I say, hey, do I owe someone forgiveness? The opposite of a resentment is forgiveness. And when we can find a way to forgive someone, especially the people that don't ask for it, we clear our slate. We don't carry yesterday's trash into tomorrow. Every night when I go to bed, I wipe out anybody that I need to forgive and I let that go. Because I have no enemies means that I keep my side of the street clean. I don't know what anybody else does with their side of the street. It's not my business what anybody else wants to do with their side, but my side of the street has to be clean. I tell people all the time, Craig, one of the most important jobs in society is a sanitation worker, someone you would call the garbage man. Because if all the garbage men in New York City decide they're going to lay it down, they're going to go on strike, it won't take long before society, right where you live in New York City, breaks down. Because no one wants to live in a world where trash is piled up in the streets. This is any city, USA, by the way. No one wants to live in a world where trash is piled up in the streets. You can't see a house because trash is piled so high. Society breaks down, and you break down too if you don't take out the trash in your own life, because you are your own sanitation worker. No one is going to take out the trash for you.
You're such a stud, brother. I'm so proud of you. You're such a beacon. And guys, there's many messages from this conversation, but I think the biggest is reinvention. You can do anything. You can make an impact. You could contribute at any time that you decide. And there's no excuses, because I mean, look at Damon's past and look what he's doing now. And what he went through gave him contrast. Sometimes for anybody listening that's in a struggle right now, you have to go through the darkness to want to see the light. Mr. Jackson, if you ever hear this, we got to find you, brother.
Yeah.
The podcast is blowing up, buddy. We're north of 1 million now, sponsored by Mark Cuban. The audience is very engaging and loyal. What's the best way for the community to support you, D?
You're sponsored by Mark Cuban?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. So Brian Cuban, his brother, Brian and I used to run around in Dallas during the wild and crazy days, man, of all this stuff that's happening in Dallas. So Brian and I still stay in touch all the time. Brian's in recovery as well. And that's really wild. It's come full circle moment. How you find me? Oh, what's that?
Alignment.
Yeah, alignment. So how you find me? DamonWest.org is how you reach out to me. I don't have an agent. Come out, talk to me on the website. My social media tags are at Damon West 7. That's Twitter and Instagram at Damon West 7. And you know, the books can be found anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million. That's where the books are.
Yeah, and guys, like I'm a speaker too, and that's one of the things I'm most excited about right now. But when you think abundance, you know there's room for everybody. I want any entrepreneur, any business owner, anybody that puts on any type of events listening to this today, book Damon to speak to your people. His message is awesome. It's universal. It's relatable, and it will you can trust me on this. It will make a lasting impact. I'm so proud of you, brother. How can I personally support you?
Brother, I appreciate it. What you just did, you did a commercial for me, man. And a commercial from you is, man, that's fantastic. I got to tell you, man, being connected to guys like John Gordon, like you, like Ed Milet. I mean, just my life has changed, especially on the speaker circuit. I mean, I've blown up over the last couple of years because guys like you have invested in me. So, brother, I'm telling you, you tell me how I can serve you. You have served me plenty, Craig.
Yeah, we're just going to build a friendship. The best part is it's just the beginning. I'm so excited about all to come, especially with you, brother. Damon, I want you to know you're the definition of perspective, reinvention, and growth. From taking your life experience to spreading positivity, light, and deep truths. You're a true gladiator, visionary, role model, and beacon of hope for anybody coming up to their big goals and aspirations. I could personally guarantee your best yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you, brother. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless nuggets today, Damon.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. And I'll give everybody the same call to action that I give at the end of my presentation. You have 3 choices in life, and the choice is yours. You can be like the carrot that turns soft and sad and weak, and you're going to be a carrot sometimes. You're going to be sad. You can be like the egg that turns hard and mad and mean, and you're going to be the egg sometimes too, because it's a natural human emotions to be sad, to be angry, and it's okay, but you can't get stuck there because you do have a third choice. And you hit this a while ago, Craig. You have a choice on each day, how you're going to have your day. You have a third choice to be like that coffee bean, and a coffee bean on a bad day, You know what a coffee bean does? Stops the day and starts it over. You can start your day over anytime you want. I tell people this all the time. 9 o'clock in the morning, noon, 4 in the afternoon. Stop your day, take a step back, take a deep breath and say, you know what, life, I don't have to live like that. I don't have to be the carrot. I don't have to be the egg. And then you run and jump in that pot of boiling water called life. And you tell life, you know what? I am a coffee bean. Turn it up. I got this. And Craig, I'm telling you, man, the longer the coffee bean sits in that pot of boiling water, the stronger that pot of coffee is going to be. So, man, my call to action to all your listeners out there is the same call to action Mr. Jackson gave me 13 years ago when a prison bus came to pick me up to go serve a life sentence in a Texas maximum security prison. My call to action is to go out there and go be a coffee bean. Be a coffee bean, Greg.
Bang. Honestly, buddy, the best ending to a podcast I've ever seen.
All right, man. I love it.
That was too much fun. It was different. And I genuinely love you, buddy. I'm excited to build a friendship straight up.
I am too, brother. And I'm going to come hit you up when I'm in New York. Next time I'm up there in New York, I'm going to hit you up. We're going to go break bread. I'm going to introduce you to people from AIG.
Yeah. Are you coming out anytime soon?
I have no plans to come anytime soon because of my speaking stuff has got me in all these other places but New York.